Hey, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Thinking Out Loud. With me today is, of course, my co host, Katrina Van Cook. Hi, Creative Katrina.
Hi there, Arizona. It's a very, very rainy week in Colorado,
Oh,
so gosh, Arizona and I are very excited to be here today. It's more good, bright energy flowing because we're not used to all these clouds. It's been really
no,
rainy.
it has been, yeah, quite depressing. Um, and also with us, since today we wanted to talk about intuition, and
hmm
that's our sixth sense that they're finally beginning to scientifically prove, which I love. So with us today to discuss that is Sheree Valentine. Sorry, Sheree.
It's
How are
okay.
you?
I'm great. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here.
Uh,
Yeah.
so Sheree, you want to start by telling people a little bit about your background?
hmm
Sure, sure. Well, I've got a pretty variety of things in my background that have got me here where I am. As with most of us, we're always in constant evolution. But basically, I am a shamanic energy healer, an EFT specialist, and a spiritual business and life coach. And I work with entrepreneurs just to help them blast through their blocks, to create a vision, and define success in their own terms, and really let go of all the conditioning and subconscious things that get in their way of allowing them to do that, to really find balance and harmony in their life. And uh, intuition's a big part of that, which is what we're going to be talking about today.
hmm
A big part of me actually creating a business that works for me and that is it works with my life, and to actually be able to have permission to do that and really embrace that the truth of who I am, and to be guided and led to make decisions,
hmm
it makes such a difference for all of us. So the intuitive part of me, I'm gonna say I was a little resistant myself to embracing, as most people are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even though my whole life I've been intuitive, I didn't quite understand what that meant, or how it was affecting me or showing up in my life. So I, like a lot of people, learned to just shut it down and to become more logical, and to become more in my head, and to become more fitting in the box of what would be more normal. And that did not work so well. It took a toll on me and my health
hmm
in particular. It usually takes its toll on most people, especially if your spirit is really trying to get your attention and you're not listening to it. Lots of things can happen: pain,
Mm-hmm.
chaos, erratic emotions, anxiety, not feeling well. So it's really interesting how it can affect us both personally and professionally when we're not listening and tuned in.
And one of the coolest things that I was interested in, because in talking with you about intuition, a lot of people feel like, well, I'm not intuitive or I am intuitive. It's sort of this on switch or off switch. But what
Mhm.
was really cool is that you're kind of diving in a little deeper and helping people understand the kind of intuitive that they are, because it really does play into how each person makes decisions, right? And I'm a certain type of intuitive versus Arizona or someone else, and that I thought was really, really cool. So can you tell us a little bit about that and how you kind of figured out those different, I should say species, but it's kind of the word that came to mind for some reason.
Yeah, I like to call it spirit speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, we can post a link in the comment section, because I actually have a blog post that describes the four basically introduction into them. So if anyone wants, to read a little bit more after tonight, they can do that. But
Perfect.
there are four types of intuitives. They're the emotional intuitive, the mental intuitive, the physical intuitive, and the spiritual intuitive. And the mental and the emotional actually balance each other out and are really good to work together, as well as the spiritual and the physical. And I'll tell you a little bit more about each one. Um, the emotional intuitive is somebody who really absorbs all of the literal emotions from other people,
hmm
and they take it on for themselves. They are the people who want to help everyone. You have this ideal of what everyone should be doing, and you
hmm
almost do you help other people to your own detriment. You can walk into a crowded room and feel overwhelmed and not know why, or go into the mall, or go into places where there are a lot of people. All of a sudden, just feel like all this emotions of heaviness or weight or confusion or anxiety, and you have no idea why. And it's absolutely because as a sponge, you've just soaked in all of the emotions of the people going around you, and it can be quite overwhelming, and you can feel like you're crazy. Which
that's me. That's me.
I'm an emotional intuitive. Also, like a lot of times you'll have found emotional intuitives have grown up in environments where they have just taken on like their parents' stress, or their parents' discomfort or worry, and it affects them. And they do it in hopes, without, again, we're not aware we're doing this, but to some degree, by taking it on ourselves, we're hoping we can free the other person, and help the other person so they don't have to. And so many of my clients, teenagers, young women, come to me, and they're emotional intuitives, and I work with them to help them disengage and learn how to do that and manage so that they can control when they want to tune in and tune out. But also to understand it's a disservice to other people, because when we try to take things on ourselves, we do not allow other people to have the experiences that they need and to do what they need to do to find their own way.
So are you saying like emotional intuitives are codependent or more likely to get into codependent relationships?
I think that would be true. Yes, because the experiences in most of your life have sort of been that way without realizing it. And emotional intuitives also tend to have a lot of fatigue, a lot of body pain, fatigue, autoimmune kind of things. We tax our immune system so much because we tend to do we do so much for others. More than the other type. All intuitives do this, by the way, so this isn't an exclusive. But the emotional intuitive tends to do it more to the extreme. And of course, there are things that we can do to help manage that. And when you start to really understand that that's what you are and how it affects you, you can really start to learn with it and let it work for you. And you can also learn to discern what's yours and what's somebody else's. So which is a really it was interesting the other day. I did this meditation and just opened myself up wide and didn't do what I normally do before going into a place where there's a lot of energies, which is kind of surround myself with light and close my chakras and do different things. And it was weird. We went into this place to have lunch and came out, and I just was feeling like heavy and just I don't know what, I had the best morning, I was in the best space, and all of a sudden I was contracted and all shrunk in. What is happening to me? And I just realized, oh my goodness, it happened the minute I walked into that place.
I love how you point out the awareness, though, right? Because I think a lot of people just go through their lives and think they start judging their body and saying, oh, I'm not feeling well, or this is wrong with me, or that is wrong with me. And I think it's important to tune into that part.
It's so true, and then you can literally step out and just ask, is this even mine? If it's not mine, please lift it. You learn to work and do different tools to help yourself discern if it's yours or not. I mean, this is my world, so I can easily start to when something starts to happen to me, I just notice, okay, well, what's going on? What was I just thinking about? Am I getting a yes or a no towards something? Is very trying to get my attention and give me information? So I'm able to ask questions and look around. So that's the emotional intuitive. It's more of an emotional sort of thing. The physical intuitive, on the other hand, can actually take on and feel physical pain in others. And again, it's not even your own. And you could, and the physical intuitive all seem to feel the less like they're intuitive because, they don't see pictures or they don't hear things and they don't get the information like the way the rest of the intuitives do. They tend to think they're not intuitive, but actually they're very much tuned with nature. And you can, and their touch, their touch, they can get a lot of information like holding rocks or holding objects that are other people's or, just communicating with nature in a different way. And you feel things in the body. So for me, in the work I do, those two show up to me. So when I'm working with somebody, I'm doing an energy healing, or if I'm tapping with people, doing the emotional freedom techniques, or even just having a coaching conversation, my body will speak to me. And I've learned to understand that that's what's happening. So I may feel an emotion and understand, okay, this is what's going on for my client, which actually helps me to go really targeted in where we need to go with them. Or my body will hurt. Like, I have learned to identify that if I get a certain pain in my back while I'm with someone, that represents, oh gosh, sorry, my mind just went blank. When somebody, oh, well, anyway, different things. Like, I can feel in my hands what anger feels like when I'm working with somebody. I can feel what anxiety feels like. I get like a certain pain up my arm that shows me that the person I'm working with is stifling their creativity and not allowing themselves an outlet that they need. I can't believe I can't think of the word I'm trying to say. You know what? But anyway, different things in my body will tell me. Or I will get a pain in my stomach, and it will be really tight, and I'll know that something's going on for my client in there. And and usually I'll just stop in and check in, what's going on with you right now, and they're always confirmed, like what's going on. So physically, I'm able to tune into people's physical pain as well as feel their emotional pain. And that's one way. But I also get a lot of information by using my hands. My hands, that's where a lot of information can come in through me. So if you're a physical intuitive, you may find that, and you tend to might be do Reiki or massage or more hands-on kind of healing work or other type of work, or drawn to that. Then you've got the mental intuitive, who is always wanting to understand, always wants to learn. Learning. They're a lifelong learner on a quest for learning, and everything they need to understand everything. They need to make sense of it. They need to have systems. They tend to be work more with like the metaphysical or numerology, but they just get their information more that come in through their thoughts. And the challenge is that you can be so in your thoughts that that's overwhelming in and of itself too, because you don't know how to, again, pull away, observe, be more mindful, really look at them that way. So that can, that's really overwhelming, but that's why the emotional and the mental can balance each other up, because one's in their body, one's feeling things more in their body, one's feeling things more in their mind, and, you can balance those two out fairly well. And the spiritual intuitive has a very keen memory of perfection in another realm, so to speak. They're not really, they don't do really well in the physical world. They can't manage time very well. They're not very organized. They struggle with the real time in this time, and they tend to be able to communicate more with spirit world. So they may be able to communicate more, or see or feel more of a connection with people who have passed on in the past life, and and they tend to not be very grounded. They tend to be more like out of their bodies and even out of their mind, really. So that's not a really healthy place to be either, and you can feel really very scattered and disoriented, and that's so when each of these, when you're experiencing any of these to an extreme level for yourself and you're not aware of it, all of it can cause anxiety. It can cause a lot more stress in your life. It can cause you to feel overwhelmed. It can cause you to feel ill or fatigued, or crazy, or like you don't fit in, all of these things. Now, that's to the extreme. But then there are people where this is happening anyway, and you're so shut down to it, you don't notice it at all. And what we want to do is find the balance. And all of us are intuitive. Okay, we are born with this ability. It's not like magic. It's not like only special people get it. We're all intuitive. It's just learning to understand that, learning to trust that, learning to really trust the way communication of spirit is coming into you, and working with it.
I actually
all of them. Like I have to all of them are I work with all of them at this point because that's what I've learned to do. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I actually liken it to using our eyes or using our ears, training ourselves to see. We should also be at the same time training our intuition.
Well, yeah. The cool part is that trying to figure out what your balance is, right? Because you are all four of those things, or to some degree, you're all more than one of those things. The intuitive types, right?
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Jane Anderson says, this is interesting. When someone is mad at me, my skin burns when I'm in the same room or in close proximity to them. I thought I was just a hypersensitive.
Wow. For you, though, the fact that you're aware that that happens is a really good start. And yeah, now you can start to work with that now that you know that.
Well, I like that you mentioned the part about anxiety too, because I think that anxiety is very prevalent and a lot of people misdiagnose why that's happening. And it really could be a largely, yeah, I mean, we have anxiety disorders and that is a thing, but for a long time I did feel anxious and wasn't sure why, without realizing that I'm a fairly strong intuitive. And I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense.
It really, really does.
Now I get it. That makes much more sense.
And it's really fun when, I start to work with people and help them just understand their intuition and how to work with it, and how their life starts to shift for them, how they become just more grounded in who they are, how they're able to disengage from other things, how they learn not to take things personally, how they, they're not as triggered by things because they're aware of what's going on with it, or they realize, oh, I've got something here I need to like clear or work on. This is mine, and it's coming up to let me know it's time to let this go. So when you can work with it and really understand for yourself what it's doing, that's when it's really powerful.
Is there, I went searching around and I really didn't find anything online for a test that could tell you what type intuitive you are, or is this something that you just need to try to figure out yourself, or does it even matter if you know?
So yes, I discovered what were my strengths were by taking a test in a book that I've read, and I'm happy to share that book. And I'm actually have a course coming up where we're going to work on these 4 different paths of intuition, and we're going to look at what the challenges are. We're going to look at what is the best thing for you to do for your type of intuition, as far as meditation, as far as movement. How do you make this work for you? The class is very hands-on, it's very experiential, very interactive, and the first thing we do is I give that test out to everyone to take so that they can come into the class having a sense of which one is their strength. But we're going to work through and have practical exercises on all of them. But the book is, I'm always a little worried to share the book, only because it could be a little, the title could be a little like scary. So, but I'll put a link. I'll pull up and put a link in the we'll put a link in the comment sections, okay, for everyone. Okay. So that way they can, if they want to, go check out the book and look at it and see if it's something that calls to them. They'll be able to do that. Because I take a lot of, that was probably the best book for me. I had done a lot of intuitive work only because in classes and training and healing and things were showing up with me in coaching, and I was like, what is going on? Like I just really had to explore what was going on with me. I mean, I would be working with clients and see things, like literally see pictures, and it was kind of a little unsettling.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my whole life that was happening. I just didn't realize what was happening. And so when you're sitting with somebody and, like, you know something that there's no way I could possibly know, it's a little unsettling.
Well, because in another life, you were an accountant, weren't you?
I was. Well, not an accountant, but I kind of ran an accounting department.
Oh,
right,
wow.
so that's a really big shift to where you are now and the work that you're doing now. Even though these gifts were always with you, you're just able to kind of work with them enough so now that you can kind of support and help other people with that too. I love being able to see how people can grow through their own journey, because that's I think the most powerful way to help other people.
Yeah, me too.
Yes. I mean, I've learned for myself anyway. I'm very experiential. That is how I learn. It's how I know. It's how I grow. And so when something's going on for me personally, I also always understand that that's, okay, I'm getting prepared for something that I need to move through because it's going to be coming to me to help others. So, so the intuition, like, I just want to point out, there's the emotional, physical, spiritual, and mental, but through all of them, we also sense different things. We get our information so many ways. So really learning to tune in, like one of the ways I said was I could see pictures. You know, so that's typically when in a traditional way, someone who's clairvoyant. So as a mental intuitive, you're going to get a lot of mental pictures. You're going to see things, right? More so maybe than some of the others, but in all of them, you still may. You know, the spiritual intuitive is going to see spirit, maybe see people, see faces, see spirit. But you hear, like, you can actually hear, like, information will come in and you will hear it. Like, you might hear words. You may get a thought that just floats out there and you don't know where it came from. Like, that's all intuition. All of that is really intuition.
So when people are learning to trust their intuition, right? Because this is an experience that maybe, some of the folks that are taking your class or some people that haven't really worked with their intuition a lot, do you suggest that they trying to start writing down things that they're hearing and sort of just kind of keep them top of mind? Because I think we all internally want that proof, right? We want to be like, okay, now I know for real that this is actually happening, and we all kind of go through that space. So how would you guide people through something like that?
A couple of things. I might take you through an experience. I don't know how much, if we have time, I can actually, what we're going to do in the course is go through 4 or 5 different ways that you can, like, tune in and experiences, clear yeses and nos. Because again, we're gonna do it through all different ways, a tactile way, feel it in your body. There's just so you can get more comfortable in what's right and true for you. We're gonna practice different ways so that you can find what's the one that you can rely on and that you want to choose to work with going forward. So we're gonna do one of them today, and everyone will have an opportunity. And I've done this in a couple of the shows, so if it might be new to some of you, it may not. So that's one thing we'll do today. We'll tune into a yes and a no, and you want to just really start working with it, and I'll tell you how to do that. But yes, awareness is a big thing. Like, how many times, if you probably just reflect on that day, did you hear yourself, oh my God, I knew I should have done that, or oh, that feeling in my gut, and I ignored it, or you know what I mean? So start to pay attention when you say those things or think those things, and then look at, okay, what was going on before, and why am I looking back now saying, oh, I should have listened, or I wish I paid better attention to that feeling, and understand, and you'll see, oh wow, you'll start to realize, oh, because this happened, and if I had listened to that, it would have been a different outcome, and I would have avoided this. So now you start to, and I would write it down, because it's always nice to be able to go back and review things and see. So if you start keeping a log or a journal of those times, you'll start to build up a better sense of trust. You can look back and say, whoa, look at it every so many times. So awareness is a really big thing, I would think.
Yeah, that happened to me yesterday about my friend's birthday. I was like, I couldn't remember the exact day, but he just kept popping into my head, and thankfully I got in under the wire of midnight of saying happy birthday, because I finally was like, what's worse, saying happy birthday at the wrong time or just missing it all together? You'd rather be early, but that my intuition was like, it's his birthday today, just send him a text message.
Well, the other thing is when you get that feeling, and I get just a really heavy feeling in my gut, like I've got to do this today, period. And, if I ignore it, then I've missed something really important that I should have gotten done.
Yeah. Yep. Another thing that people can do, too, is to practice, like, just stillness. It's in the stillness and the quiet that we really start to learn to hear how Spirit's speaking to us, how our intuition is showing up. So, taking some time each day just to sit and breathe and be quiet, or go for a walk, like in nature, and just, breathe in and just be silent, like not listening to music, or, not talking on the telephone. But, I'm going to take that back. You can, because for me, actually, I have found oftentimes listening to music while I'm walking in nature, a lot of things will come up for me. And that's a good kind of a thing. So, but it's not, quiet music, more music that's going to induce that, not.
I listen to music without words when I'm writing. I find that helps a lot. If it's got words, it's distracting, but just either chakra balancing music, very gentle music, classical, that all really helps my creativity when I'm writing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Thing here, yeah. I'm also good with silence.
Silence, yes. It took me a while to do that, but yes.
Well, I think because I'm so hypersensitive, that's the other thing I think that really intuitive people, I tend to be hypersensitive. So I hear sounds more keenly, I taste foods more intensely, I smell more keenly than most people do. It's really actually frustrating, to be honest with you.
I'm always the one walking in the room going, what smells in here?
Yeah, so I think I tend to, even as much as I love music, that for me, I love, when I'm working, I love this, the silence is just really good for me. For that reason. So, should we go through an exercise and practice tuning into a yes and no?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds great.
So there are several ways that I work this with people, all right? Again, so that we can find one that's most normal, comfortable for each of us. So I'm trying to think, since this is visual, this is really good when it's visual. I can do it a different way. But let's do this one. Let's just tune into our bodies, okay? Because it's always a nice place to start, all right? Okay. So everyone that's out in the audience, please do this. And if you're watching the replay, just get quiet and still for a minute, okay? Let's just take 3 deep breaths in. You just want to breathe and relax and just get here in the moment. Maybe put your feet on the floor, just connect to the earth and just be in your body. And keep your eyes closed. And just in your mind, repeat the word yes over and over. Yes, yes, yes. And to notice what your body is doing, or notice what happens for you. Notice if you get a feeling somewhere in your body. Notice maybe if your body sways or moves in a direction. Notice perhaps maybe you see something, a shape, a color, a word. So just tune in for you, because this is very unique to each and every person, and there's no right way. It's just learning your way and learning to trust it. And Katrina and Arizona, when you have found it, share it with us if you don't mind.
For me, it's definitely feeling first. So I get like a tingly feeling from the top of my head all the way down to my feet.
Okay. Yes. Okay. How about you, Arizona? Did anything happen?
For me, it's noise. It's almost like birds chirping very happily.
Oh, that's cool.
Do we want to check in with anybody in the audience?
Sure.
Yeah, let's see if anyone else did this. Well, what is it for you, Sheree?
For me, I get this very lightness and tingling in my lower body, in my legs, down my legs. It just gets this really light, fluttery, tingly feeling.
Yeah, so similar. We have that similar kind of tingly feeling.
Yeah. Just in my legs and lower body, and more of a lightness up top, but I really feel it in my legs.
Yeah, it gets like the strongest at my stomach, and then kind of gets more intense as it goes down. It's kind of interesting. But you're right, I didn't notice it before. It is lighter in some spots than others.
So the way I love to test that, though, is to go back in and close your eyes and sit and just say what your name is, because that's obviously a yes and a truth, right?
Right.
And see the same experience.
Go
ahead and do that. Yeah, so go ahead and do that. And
oh, okay. He's like, I'm telling you to do it right now.
You're out there in the audience.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Just say your name and see if you get that same experience of when you were saying the yes.
Yeah, definitely. But it's interesting how it definitely can feel it just mostly in the core part of my body, right down the center.
Yeah.
And then for me, because I have my given name and then my chosen name, which is Arizona, I actually did it with both.
And did you guess in both?
I don't hear with Cheryl. I don't hear it, but with Arizona, I do, and that makes sense to me because that's where I identify.
That's great.
Awesome.
Well, here's the truth: our intuition, our spirit, and our body, they all know what's the truth for us, for our highest good. They really do. And so if we learn to tune in and trust that, and that's a very simple way to get started. So we should also do the know, because it's really nice to know the difference.
We have a few people that said that they gave us some feedback on some of theirs.
Oh, let's check them out. I'd love to see them.
I didn't say, oh, yes, we do.
So it looks like she gets a tingle circling her head.
And Ron Snaberger said he had a relaxed feeling and felt lighter.
Nice.
I'm the only weird one who hears things.
No,
Oh.
you're not weird. It's you're unique, and it's not. You know, I have people that see like a big round red circle, you know, or just like so. No. It's all. It's really what works for you.
For some of the stronger ones, I'll get like a violet color. So sometimes I see both and feel at the same time. But I love the idea of birds, Arizona, just because, I don't know, it's like they're telling you something very clearly and directly. It's like they are talking specifically to you, you know? This is true for you. Listen.
Chirp, 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 chirp.
Well, I will find usually our yeses are going to be more light and expansive. You know, no is going to be more contracted. And the things that I really like to understand is sometimes we confuse a yes and a no with like yes is positive, no is negative, and that's not the case. Sometimes no is the answer we need to hear, and that's the most positive thing for us. So just really understanding when we're saying yes, is this for my highest good? Yes, you know.
Oh, I'm so glad you clarified that because I think it's very important for people to look at it that way.
Yeah, because if you're asking if something is for your highest good and you get a no, well, that's good to know, right? You don't obviously go in that direction or do that. So I just really want to, I always like to clarify that for everyone to understand that don't associate a positive or a negative to yes or a no. Understand that you're getting information to make decisions to move forward for your highest good. And you always know that that's what it's for. You know, you set the intention for my highest good. And then you can start using this to ask questions for guidance, to make decisions. And so the questions you ask can be just as important as well. You know, you learning to ask really good questions and what is the outcome you want. I taught this to my teenage granddaughter, who's 15 now, and we did this a couple of years ago. She was really stressed out because she had to make a decision about which math class to take, which direction to go. And so I said, well, let's tune in and see. You know the answer. You know the answer already. And I was asking her for questions. And she wasn't getting a clear answer. So finally I asked her, well, what's the outcome that you want? Like, what's your fear? What's the crux of your decision-making process here? She said, well, I'm just afraid I can't handle it. I said, okay, well, that's the question to ask. If I take this class, can I handle it? And she got yes. And she felt like so relieved that she, you know, so she wasn't talking about she was asking, should I take this class? Is this for my head? You know, she wasn't really being clear with her questions. And what is it that you really want? Like, what's the result you're looking for? So again, the more clear you can get with what you're looking for as an answer, the clearer you're going to have, get a response.
Yeah. We had some more interesting responses in the audience too. Tim Longwell says, when I do it, I expand and become aware of the micro information around me. Then Sheree Valentine may remember why.
We had a great conversation in the green room one day after a taffy break, and that makes sense for me.
And Gail McGinty says, I felt rather dizzy and pulled to the left.
Okay. Interesting.
And Jeremy Murphy had warmth in my hands and saw a book. Not sure why. Mysterious.
Okay. Warmth in your hand, so that's good. So that's just the feeling that you would express, and then the picture. There's, work with it, and it must have some sense for you. Was it a particular book, or just a general book? Like, just you saw that it was a book, or was it actually a book with a title that you resonate with, or?
He didn't write that yet, but we'll have him answer that. So Jeremy, if you could put that title in there, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. If you could answer that, I'm just curious myself. Yeah.
But I love how you said the other part about questions, because I think that in part of this entire learning process, it really helps you to fine-tune how you ask questions. Yes. Because the more you do that, the more you can build your skills, but then you also build trust in the answers that you're getting because they are more direct and more specific, right? So those pieces all fit really nicely together for me, and it's awesome that you said that because that was the next question I was going to ask.
Well, here's something too that I find is if you don't trust it and you keep checking and checking, at some point it's just going to be done. You're going to get the answers at some. And I'm laughing at myself as I say this because I shared with you today about the course. Yeah. And when I was sitting and writing today, it came through without me giving it much thought, and it felt really light and expansive and great. But then, and I'm learning that that's what comes through, and that's what I really need to trust. I have different ways I tune in with yeses and nos. But I don't, instead of just trusting that, I go and I do a different one, and I get conflicting answers, and I was really confused as to why, and I totally realized because when I do the other one, it's in a different experience, and it serves me when I'm doing a certain work. But for general, what happens is it just flows through my body, and I get the yeses and nos without really thinking about it, and I have to remind myself that was intuition.
I find that when I over-ask, it flatlines and I can't feel anything anymore. Yeah, it just kind of gets dead.
Yeah. So should we go in and find our nose?
We can. I just wanted to let you know that Jeremy said his book didn't have a title, but he's trying to write a book right now.
Ah, so maybe he's getting a sign of a yes. That's what you need to be. Yeah, you're on the right track. You're on the right path.
Yeah, nice.
Warmth in your hands, holding the pen and writing.
Right.
Yeah. Or clicking on the keyboard.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. Thanks so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah. All right, let's find our nose.
Okay, so basically we're going to do the same thing, just put your feet on the floor. Just breathe a bit. Just get settled into your body. And just in your mind, just say or hear the word no. 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 And just, again, tune in and notice for yourself. Is it a feeling? Is it a sound? Is it a movement? Is it a picture? Is it a combination?
I feel it in my throat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my throat didn't like that very much. It's like, enough.
I get it just, this movement of right up my back, but it's a tightness, and I can really feel this tension, and my whole back just tightens for my no consistently.
That's what my throat was doing. It was like,
contraction. Yeah, see, It's usually, yeses are expansive and nos tend to be contractive.
excuse me. Sorry.
That's really funny because mine, again, it was like a dead silence, almost like an unnatural silence, and then a really, really, almost like a dread feeling in my gut.
Okay, so yeah, there you go. That's enough.
The birdies were hiding from you.
The birdies are so upset that they have to be quiet and clamp down.
That is probably my favorite sound in all the world.
Is bird chirps, yeah.
So let's test that with just, again, say something to yourself that's clearly not a truth that you know is not a truth. And it can be as easy as saying, I am somebody that I'm not. And that's usually just the simplest way to test it.
Yeah, my name is in Arizona.
Not Katrina.
Is that what you asked yourself? That's hilarious. Whoa! Love that.
So let's look. Anybody in our audience, did we have an experience with those?
Let me refresh the page. I don't see any no examples yet.
I don't either.
And I know we're getting close to the end of the show too, so if we
I scare them after all of my hacking and choking.
Yeah, I'm not getting anything, and I didn't see anything on the page.
But what a powerful tool to just start practicing with.
Yeah. I'll just quickly, we're not going to go through but I'll just quickly give you a couple other things if people, want to look at the replay and pause and try it on their own. Another way is to stand up and do it and just, again, notice what happens for you. If you get the same experience as we just did in your body, or does your body maybe move different ways for yeses and nos? We can also use a kinesthetic kind of thing with our fingers and our hands. There's just different ways to tune in. And again, what you want to start to do is to pay attention, ask questions for guidance, start with things that are very obvious, and so you can start building up a trust level. And then you'll start to use it more and more. And you'll also start to notice. It will just happen. Like you'll be having a conversation, or you'll be writing, or you'll be thinking something, and you'll get that feeling. And that's a sign for you. It truly is. Like if you're having a conversation about something, ooh, okay, thanks, Ron. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Ron doesn't like the word no.
No. And Barbara Quick says the muscles in my back in the back of my neck and up my head tightened. That makes sense.
Yeah. You're going to find it will usually be something that is more contracted. That's just when something is not true and right for us, we go into a contracted state.
Right. And Jane Anderson said, even though I reminded myself that no did not need to be negative, I had more tenseness in the back of my neck area of my herniated disc in my neck.
Yeah, it does. It really does. So, I want to just really reiterate how important and valuable this information is. So all of you that have had an experience, if you're tuning in when these things might be happening to you, that's clues for you. So again, you want to reflect back on what were you thinking, what were you saying, what's going on around you, because that's really good information for you.
Or if, like you said, if you've been around people that you're not normally around, if you've had an interaction with someone that maybe didn't go as well, and then a couple hours later you start feeling poopy, pay attention to that too.
Contraction's always a sign. Any kind of tenseness in your body, shortness of breath, contraction, tightening, anything like that usually is a sign that it's a signal for you. So if you learn to tune in and that's what it's telling you, you'll be amazed at the freedom that you'll have and the things that you'll start to do in a different way.
Well, and it's cool when you can just let it roll, right? Like you said, you're in a conversation, you're in an interaction, and then the more familiar you are with these sensations, it's not like you have to take the step out and think about it. You're feeling them, you're sensing them, you're aware of them. You're like, huh, that's really interesting.
Well,
I do with that.
I actually wonder if the sixth sense could ever get as natural as our vision is, or as our hearing is.
I think so, personally.
I think
I do too.
It was, and honestly, before language, people communicated somehow,
That's true.
And, in all honesty, it's interesting. I was in Brazil a couple of years ago, and although I really, really attempted to learn some Brazilian, it was Portuguese, I'm sorry, Portuguese. I just didn't absorb it. It's just not, it wasn't as easy for me at this point in time. So, but what was funny was that the Spanish I had studied years ago and never used was coming out. And so the Portuguese lady speaking Portuguese, me speaking half English and Spanish and not even know what I'm saying, and yet we actually all communicated really well. Like, we didn't have a problem communicating and understanding what we were doing. So it was really funny, like how we were able to tune in different ways because we had the language barrier.
Well, it helps that you're expressive too.
Yeah.
You like to talk with your hands like me.
Oh yeah, I'm Italian.
Well, it's so funny because I had a similar situation last summer. I was sitting out on the front porch, and everybody comes across, and everybody else in my area is Spanish, Mexican descent. They don't speak English. I don't speak Spanish. But somehow or another, we still managed to communicate and have a fabulous conversation.
Nice. That's awesome.
That is, and that's.
Well, I'm trying to think if there's anything, because I know that we're about almost 15 minutes away from the end of the hour here. So, what other? I'm trying to think if there's any other last question, because you gave us so much good information today. A lot of really good places and tools to start with. What would you say are maybe some of the most important questions to be asking yourself as you're getting more used to this process?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
What kind of questions should you be asking yourself as you get used to this process? Because if people aren't used to practicing with what type of intuitive they are and they're starting to get to know that, what would be some good questions to ask themselves as they're figuring out their yeses and nos?
I would, to start to notice how you're feeling and how you're reacting in different situations. Do you walk into a room of crowded people and start to feel contraction, or what's going on in your body, or what thoughts are you having? All of those things are clues. They're all like signs as to spirit trying, giving you information. So I would just start first to just pay attention, and then ask, what's going on with me right now? Is there something I need to know? It's really amazing when we ask the questions of ourselves, of our spirit, that the answers will start to come up one way or another and unfold for us. So just being aware, tuning in, asking, is this mine? Is this even my stuff I'm feeling? And then get your yes or your no. Do you get a yes or your no? Tune into the yes or your no. I would really start practicing with yeses and nos, because that is really going to start to give you some confidence, and it's very concrete. It's very easy to do, and you can start with simple things. And I'm going to tell you, I got to give you all a warning, because when you start doing this, like, I made a commitment to myself a few years back that if I'm going to ask a question and tune in, I would trust the answer, whether it made sense to me or not.
Wow.
That's the caveat, because most times it will not make sense to you. And you're going to want to challenge it and not believe it. And if you just make a promise to yourself that you are going to trust it regardless and follow it, that's where you'll really start to see, oh my God, the power in it. I can give you several examples when I started to do that, of how I would have, if I had gone with logically what I thought would be the right thing, it wasn't the right thing, and I trusted intuition. So again, I know we only have so much time. But I'm just be aware of that oftentimes you're going to feel conflicted because we're so used to being in our thinking mind that you're going to challenge what intuitively is coming through for you.
But you can give us one example. I'd love to hear an example of how that happened to you.
Okay, so I think this is just a really good one. I was meant to be on a radio show, and 5 or 6 other women. We were doing a group project, and we had been asked to come in and be interviewed on a local radio show. The morning that I was due to go in, I was just getting such an intuitive hit that I shouldn't go. And it made no sense to me, because I'm like, I made a commitment, I have a sense of integrity, they're expecting me, but it was so strong. So I called one of the other women, who is also a very spiritual, intuitive woman, and she said, well, you know what that means, don't you? You can't go. I'm like, but of course I have to go. And she was, Sheree, you really need to trust it. She says, you know what, you can call in. Why don't you call in? And I said, okay. So anyway, I did call in, and it was great. And after the show, I got a text from her saying, it was such a mess. There were only 3 chairs. You wouldn't have been able to sit in the room anyway. You would not have been able to participate, and at least by staying and you were part of the show. So if
and
I
grounded.
Myself and gone, my intuition, for however reason it knew.
Wow. Well, I think Jeremy Murphy has a great question. Is how do we know if our intuition is correct?
That comes with practice. It comes with trust. And it comes with experience. It really, truly does. And it's really like noticing, keeping track, looking back, reflecting, noticing when it really is working. And again, our intuition only wants what's for our best, our highest, and our good. And so it's always going to guide us in that direction. And it might not always feel comfortable, because, it might be in conflict with what your ego wants. But so the practice and the experience of that is the best way to start to trust that and tune in. You could also come take my course. That will help.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, you want to give everybody a real quick rundown? I know there's a link to the course in the event page, or on the event page.
Do you have that, or do you want me to post that after the show?
I put one in the event description.
Okay. So it's a 6-week course. It's going to be offered live virtually through Google Hangouts. We're limiting it to 8 students so that it's experiential and interactive, and you get to really have the experience. It's not a class where I'm just giving you information, where it's going to be like we did today. You're going to go through the whole course. That whole 90 minutes each week is going to be exercises and getting practice and tuning in and trusting and finding out, and really developing that sense of confidence and your intuition. In the different ways that it can come to you. So we start the first week out with just, again, going through more of a general sort of, going through all of them in a general sense. Then each week thereafter, we specifically focus on each one: the emotional, the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. And then the last week is, again, a chance for questions, practice, more practice. And we're also going to have like a private closed community on G+, so that in between our classes we can be communicating, you can be sharing your experiences. If you have any questions for me between the weekly class, I'll be available and monitoring it daily. So it will be a really full hands-on experience for 6 weeks.
That sounds really awesome.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you're going to get a lot of good experience and a lot of good insight, and you get to learn more about yourself. Seems like a win-win to me.
Yeah. It does to me, too. Well, Sheree, thank you so much for all the valuable information.
Yes.
Thanks
And
for having me. It was such a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad you guys had such experiences that you could share, and that everyone in the audience also did.
Yes. I have
well,
a feeling this is getting a lot of replays for sure.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
And
We can ask all of you out there who really benefited today. They're like, share it away, share away, please.
Mm-hmm.
and speaking of our audience, so I guess it was 2 weeks ago that I first said, hey, we needed a name for the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And we went through a week of nominations, and we had 4 name nominations, and I threw a 5th one in there that was just garbage, basically.
No.
It was. And this week we've been running a poll, so I've been asking everybody to vote on it. And I wish I had my sound effects up because I would do the drum roll.
Maybe I can do it.
The winner is at 50%. I mean, half of our audience. So I think that's pretty darn good. Is Ron Schneeberger's The Thinkables. Oh, you got it!
Hooray! Thank you, Ron. That's awesome.
It is. So, Ron, you'll get a $25 gift certificate from Amazon or Fine Art America, whichever one you want. Just let me know. For, as a thank you for nominating a name. Everybody else, thank you so much for voting.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just add one more thing to everyone out there, please?
Sure.
I just want to invite you, if you're unsure if the course might be right for you, ping me privately and let's have a private conversation and hang out. And I'd be happy to answer your questions and help you decide, because I really want it to be a really good fit and want you to feel comfortable that it's the right thing for you at this time. So if I can help you decide yes or no either way, then that will be great. So please feel free to reach out to me and let's have a private conversation if you need help making that decision.
Oh, that's perfect.
It
Well,
is.
I think we've had a really awesome Friday. This was the best part of my day. I was pretty quiet today. It was a very slow day, just kind of did my own stuff, so it's always nice to end it on a high energy note. So thank you, ladies, so much. You're both wonderful, and I love spending my Friday afternoons here.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you.
And everybody, guys.
So good night, everybody. Hopefully you'll kick off your next. Oh, speaking of, I'm about to say good night, and wow, I need a crown. If I was wearing a crown,
you need a crown
for Mia Voss, who is going to be our next week's guest.
Oh,
that's right.
Yes.
So we are going to be talking about your passions and how to better understand them and everything else next week with Mia Voss.
Yes, so. It'll be a great call. Or show, I should say. Sorry.
So thank you so much for joining us for Thinking Out Loud tonight, and we'll see y'all later. Bye.
Bye.